and repay it fairly. This is a good bill, Mr Speaker.
Split call, 5 minutes. Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, it's a bit rich to be lectured by the National Party on elitism when it comes to tertiary education.
Right.
This is a government that seems to think the only people who should have access to tertiary education are the people who have parents who can afford to pay for it.
Right.
Because they continue to put more and more financial hurdles in the way of people participating in tertiary education, while they continue to erode the financial support that has previously been available. This is a government that seem to think that tertiary education should be the preserve of the wealthy and the wealthy alone, and I think that's disgraceful. And we know that because we had Simon O'Connor over here before talking about the interest-free student loan scheme, calling it irresponsible. Doesn't that remind everybody in the House of when John Key came down to the House not that long ago, it doesn't seem like that long ago, and railed against interest-free student loans and said that he was going to fight them with every bone in his body? Well, perhaps he is some kind of reptilian overlord after all, because interest-free student loans are technically still here. But of course, what they're doing is slowly, progressively dismantling it, little bit by little bit. So first they introduce an administration charge, which is effectively a form of interest every year that students have to pay. And it's on the basis that it costs that much money to administer the student loan scheme. And yet the IRD don't apply that under any other policy. Only for students, only under student loans do we have this administration charge. And then we have a whole lot of other punitive measures introduced by the national government to increase the cost to students of their tertiary education and to gradually, slowly erode away the value of interest-free student loans, because we know that they're opposed to it. And of course the reality is they won't front up to New Zealanders before the election and admit it, but the reality is if they get a third term, interest-free student loans will be history.
That's right.
The National Party never wanted there to be interest-free student loans. Simon O'Connor still believes that it's irresponsible to have interest-free student loans. It's very clear that if the National Party, if New Zealanders have the misfortune of having a third-term national government, interest-free student loans will be gone. Of course, the other thing that this bill does, is it hangs a very big sign over New Zealand for expat New Zealanders saying, "Don't come home."
That's right.
Don't come back. If you've got a tertiary education and you've borrowed for that and you've gone overseas, don't come back. Don't come back. That's what this government, that's the message that this national government are sending to those New Zealanders who have gone overseas. Actually, we should be making it as easy as possible for New Zealanders overseas to come back. And the prospect that they're going to be handcuffed at the border certainly won't do anything to bring New Zealanders back. I do believe that people should repay their student loans, but I believe that the responsibility of the government is to make it as easy as possible for them to do that. And what we've seen is this government keep making it harder and harder. They keep making it harder for graduates to keep on top of their student loan debt, particularly those graduates who are living overseas. Actually, one of the progressive things that a government should be looking at, that this government should be looking at, is how we make it easier for people who are overseas to work out how much they should be paying back, making it easier for them to actually keep on top of their repayments so that this problem doesn't actually arise in the first place. But no, that national government aren't interested in that at all. They're more interested in a punitive measure, a gimmick that basically says to people living overseas, don't bother coming back to New Zealand, we don't want you back. Well, actually, here in the Labour Party, we're not that arrogant. We do want people who live overseas and who are New Zealand graduates to come back to this country and to contribute to the New Zealand economy. And we want to make it as easy as possible for people who are overseas to come back. Because, of course, we know that they've been leaving in droves under this national government. Do we remember how John Key stood in the stadium and talked about the Westpac stadium load of New Zealanders who were leaving to go to Australia every year? Well, they wouldn't fit in the Westpac Stadium. He'd have to do the ad at Eden Park these days, because under this national government, the exodus to Australia and to other countries around the world has gotten even bigger. There are more and more New Zealanders leaving every year. And actually we should be saying to them, we want you to come home. We value the contribution that expat New Zealanders could make to New Zealand if they came home. That's not what this national government are focused on. They're interested in election year stunts. They're interested in appearing to be tough on people who aren't paying back their loans. Well, actually what they should be doing is making it easier for people to pay their loans back in the first place. They should be making it easier for people to participate in tertiary education in the first place. They shouldn't be focused, as they are, on making sure that tertiary education is the preserve of a wealthy elite. And that is very much what this government are doing, and I don't think that's right.
Very good speech.
David Clendon.
Kieran, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to make a brief call on this Student Loan Scheme Amendment Bill, because essentially this bill